Okay, in this video, we're going to work through a fairly simple inventor project, but we're going to go over what's known as the history tree and how you can make changes right there in that browser uh, to a file that you've already got going. So we're going to start off with a new, excuse me, a new English part file, standard. It's loading, 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 waiting. All right. Come on, mouse. Okay, so this is your model history tree, okay, or we may call it the history tree, or we may call it the browser, okay. And there's things over here that we can do. Let's expand the origin folder, and then that gives us we can highlight our different planes. We can turn them on, turn them off, just by right-clicking and go visibility, and then that turns that plane on, so that we can see it, okay. So I'm going to start a my mouse is acting funny there. So I'm going to start a new 2D sketch. Um, and I want it to be on the XY plane. So I can choose it here or I can click it over in the window, either way. And just kind of follow along with me on this. I'm going to start right here and constrain that to that point. I'm going to go up 1.75. And I'm going to come over horizontal 0.5. And down, I don't know the distance down, so I'm going to come straight down. I don't know that one yet, so I'm going to come across. I'm going to go back up until we're horizontal with there. Come over 0.5 again. And then close that. Okay, so there's my shape. Now I want to put a couple of dimensions in here. So this one will be 0.5. My total height, 1.75. Oh, I've already got it done. Cancel that. Okay, got that one. Here, 0.75. And a distance here to here, let's see, that should be 2. And then my total distance down here on the bottom, 3.25. Pull that out so it makes a little better sense. Okay, so pause the video and you draw this. And then here's a little trick for you. We can finish sketch and then go extrude, or I can just hit E on the keyboard and go straight to my extrude command from the sketch. Okay, this works good sometimes. Sometimes it's better to go the other way. But we want to extrude this one symmetrically both ways for a distance of 2.5 inches. Okay, and so there gives my there's my shape, there's my object. That's what we should look like. Okay, so you notice over here it added to my first operation that I did here, extrusion 1 and then sketch 1. All right, so now we want to create another sketch, and I don't want this one. I actually want it on the bottom surface. Okay, so I'm gonna just hover here. I'm gonna right click, select other, and I can hit that pull down and I can see all my options. So I'm going to go bottom face. All right, and so that pops up. I want to do a circle, And I want the center point to be in the midpoint of that line and the radius of it to be on the outside edge. Now I'm not assigning any size or anything like that. I'm just using those constraints to do that. Okay, and so there's my sketch. And so now I want to extrude, and it automatically chose the profile, but I want to go the opposite direction. Oh, but see, now it thinks I want to cut, so I don't want to cut. I want to go back to join, and for distance, let's go with 2, and I'll choose that top surface, and it'll extrude it to that. That looks cool, so I'll say OK. And so that's got my part pretty much shaped out here. So I'm gonna come over here to my browser and right click on that. Oh wait, it doesn't come up with that. So I just kind of slow click it twice, and I want to rename that to base. Now this is a pretty simple part we've got going on here, but the more complex your parts become, sometimes renaming them becomes a good idea. And I'm going to call this one round. Okay, so that all I did was rename those so that I can tell what they are later on, because sometimes it gets really complex. I want to change the length of it. Okay, so if I come over here, right click, and go show dimensions, it brings up my original sketch with all of those dimensions that I had, plus the extrusion thickness. So I want to change the length of it right here. So I can double click that number, and I'm going to make it 3 inches long. So that shortens it back a little bit, okay? And now I want to change the width of it, the extrusion, from 2.5. We'll change that down to 2.0. Okay, so we're all done there. Let's go up here to and go local update and click that, and see it made all those changes there. So we're nice and pretty. Now I want to I want to put a concentric hole right here on the end of it, what we call a placed feature. So I go to my hole command, choose concentric, and the plane will be the top surface. The concentric reference will be the arc. See, it centered it up there. And now my diameter, 0.75 inches. And I click OK, and so now that looks good. Now I want to put a cut through this face, so I'm going to go with a sketch on here, and I'm going to go with a rectangle, and I'm going to constrain that rectangle onto that top line and come over. The size of my rectangle is going to be 1 inch long by 0.75 tall. Oh, okay. But now I need to put a dimension to get it centered up. I'll just use a dimension of 0.5, and that's should center that up, right? Yep, that's good. Okay. All right, and so now I want to extrude that, and I'm choosing my profile. It didn't automatically select it, so I'll choose my profile. I want to go cut. And let's just choose to next, so I can show you how this stuff works. So I choose to next. Terminator, if I didn't like the terminator that I picked, I can pick something different. So I'll say okay. And so that cuts it right through just that front part. Okay, but that's not what I want. I want it to go all the way through the back. So let's go back over here and edit that feature and change this to all. All right, and so that cut Made my cuts all the way through. All right, so now we're good with this. We like our part. We send it off. Somebody reviews it, and then they come back and they say, dummy, you got to make a change to it. So let's go back into our base feature here and edit our sketch. We need to put a fillet right here. Now we can do this two different ways. We can do it in the sketch, or we can do it over in the actual part file, but we're going to do this one in the sketch. And so we'll come up here with our fillet command. Our radius is going to be 0.25. So I'll click those two lines and see it added the fillet to it there. We'll say OK. And we'll finish our sketch and see it updates our part and added that fillet in there for us automatically. Okay, so let's come back over here to our browser. We got our base, the rounded end, the hole. Let's rename this one rectangular cut. And now we can see everything we've got there. Now I want to save this one, and I'm working off of my desktop right now today. So I'm going to call it saddle bracket. Now let's talk about physical properties for this. And if I click my big eye and I go down to eye properties, lots of things going on here. We can put in the name, company, a lot of these things. But what I want to show you today is on the physical tab is we can specify a material. And let's just go with iron cast, okay? It gives me a density of the material, the mass, the area, the volume of my part, and the center of gravity. All these things based on whatever material I supply, okay? Now, the volume here will not change based on whatever material. The volume will stay the same. And oftentimes I'll use this volume to check your work, to make sure your part is the correct size. But let's say if I change this to lead, notice the mass changed. Excuse me. The density and the mass both changed. So let's go back. We'll take it back to cast iron. We can apply, or we can say OK. Notice it changed the color, okay, of the part. You notice up here it made the changes here. This is the material, the physical property, and this is the material color. And I can change it up here. Let's go silicon nitride. Change the color. So here you can play with different, I say play, we'll assign these based on whatever part the material is. Say I changed it to steel high strength. Let's go back to eye properties and look. See, it changed it here also. But I want to take it back to cast iron. Change there and save my part. And there you have a little stuff on the model history tree. You'll do this work, save it, and submit it according to the instructions in Blackboard.